Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle. It's Wildcard Wednesday. No Kev, unfortunately. He's dropped out right at the last minute and thrown all our lovely plans into the bin with the rest of it all. Fortunately, I wasn't just going to do it with Kev. I do still have one black and white partner with me, which is Michael. Hello, Michael. How are you?
Hello, Ian. I'm doing very well. Thank you very much, mate. How about you?
I'm all right. I'm a bit disappointed that having actually got one of these quotation marks hilarious, supposedly wildcard Wednesdays to be in charge of, because they always miss me out. I think Joe just hogged it for her, Kev, and Nicola to go and be mental.
100%. There's a reason she does the schedule.
And I had a fabulously different thing for us to do, which you know I've tortured you with it for a week or two. And I know you'd even done some research to not appear to be a complete buffoon anymore.
I did, yes.
And you would have done. Unfortunately, Kev dropping out just 10 minutes before we're about to record means we're not going to do that. I'm going to save that up for later on. And instead, I think it's only right, given that we've got a massive game tomorrow night against Liverpool, that we just have a little bit of a look at that and how we feel going into it.
Yeah.
And then for the second part of the podcast, I am of a mind, because I've taken consolation, certainly in that Manchester City game, that our rivals, a lot of our rivals chasing these Champions League places, are also in a real string of tough games and are dropping points left, right, and centre.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think the same thing is the case in this chunk of games we've got this midweek. So we're going to have a little bit of a look at each of those and see if actually it doesn't matter whether we win or lose or draw against Liverpool, because we will not really fall behind or gain points on anybody else, given that there's still 10, 12 games afterwards. But some great games, and I think it's worth us just having a little bit of a chew and see how many of them we get right.
Oh, absolutely. I'm well down for that.
Good stuff. Let's direct our attention first of all to the main event tomorrow night, 8:15 at Anfield. Not at Sunderland or Newcastle, but a ground where we do tend to perform with Eddie Howe, even though we still haven't got a point out of them yet. But we played really well the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, last year was a little bit of a blow. Obviously, the result was 4-2. But I think, if you remember, the expected goals for Liverpool, now we'll not talk about the Diogo Jota dive, which is one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen in my life. But I believe the XG was the highest any team had accumulated in Premier League history, or at least since records began, let's say. But it's one of those where they could have had quite a few goals. We were very clinical on the day. We were quite lucky to get two. But I think we're in a much better position now than what we were then.
I agree. I think that's Sven Botman's last goal for Newcastle.
It is, yes.
A header 5 minutes from the end to put us 3-2. And it was amazing having watched us get so spanked for more than an hour. He did that, so you're thinking, my word, one more cheeky run of the ball and we could get a score out of this. Dubravka was absolutely brilliant that night, of course.
Yeah.
But unlikely to be playing tomorrow night after Eddie's decision. He seems to have determined that Nick Pope is definitely his main man.
Yeah, I wonder I was actually going to just ask you the same question. How do you feel about it? We mentioned it a little bit in the chat earlier, and I know Joe and Nick are very much in the Team Dubravka camp. Myself, a little bit in the Team Nick Pope camp. I think when you've got a cup final coming up, you play your best players, and if your best players aren't sharp, you get them sharp before that cup final, because we don't want another situation where our backup keeper's in goal for a cup final and doesn't perform. If Nick Pope doesn't perform, fair enough. he's still our number one goalkeeper. And to be honest, the goals we conceded against Nottingham Forest are enough to put doubt in anyone's mind. I can see why people want Dubravka back in the team, but he wasn't fantastic either. So let's give Pope a couple of games to get up to speed, get his sharpness back. And I think Nick Pope's the number one for the rest of the season comfortably. But I do feel slightly bad for Martin Dubravka just signing a new contract. We're going to say that's just so he can get his Saudi move in the summer, but Newcastle can actually get a little bit of a fee for him. Fingers crossed it's that, and he hasn't just been duped like his wife's Instagram would tell you it's kind of been like, because she was not happy.
No. Well, like I said, I mean, Martin Dubravka did get a winner's medal in the Carabao Cup that year.
Yes,
when we lost to Manchester United. So he's already got the gong. I think Nick Pope needs the gong. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I will be 100%. Honest with you. 10 minutes into the Nottingham Forest game, I wondered why the hell Nick Pope had been brought back in because, as I say, he sort of went down like an animated cartoon on that first one. And standing at the corner flag was a bad position to start try and get down to the bottom corner of the other side of the goal.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Even Nick Pope couldn't get close to it. But I think he's improved. His performance improved during the game, and I was absolutely pleasantly surprised about his distribution when he started throwing the ball out instead of trying to kick it out. But well, Nick Pope, fair enough. That's good. Who else is coming in? We've seen Eddie today go through. What do you make of his Botman and Joe Linton are very close and getting closer and improving all of the time comment? Are they both in tomorrow?
I mean, if it's down to me, who isn't seeing training, for example, I would say 100% put them in. But at the same time, Lewis Miley and Joe Willock were two of our best players against Nottingham Forest. So to take any of them out for Joe Linton, I think would be harsh. But we've seen that Eddie Howe doesn't mind being harsh if it's to make the right decision in his eyes. So I think Joe Linton has more of a chance of playing than Sven Botman. I thought first half against Nottingham Forest, Dan Burn was a colossus. Fabian Schär less so. But I think, one of our most experienced defenders. Up against that Liverpool side, you need experience in your centre-backs. And I think Schär and Burn might stick as the two. It depends on if he wants to play that back five that we saw against Arsenal. If he plays the back five, I think Botman slips in. Maybe Miley and Willock come out. Tonali partners Bruno, who, to be fair, you could argue could be dropped himself after the second half performance. But I think he's done so much for the team. And he's been really good sort of at doing the dirty work this year. And Tonali's done absolutely fantastic at sort of cleaning up behind that. I think those two as your midfield two would do a brilliant job. But I do think that back five, if you have Fabian Schär, Dan Burn and Sven Botman available, I think it's got to be a back five with Livramento and Lewis Hall bombing forward. But at the same time, Cup final, is that a little bit on his mind? Does he want to play the back five now, or does he want to leave it as a sort of surprise that we could implement in the final if we get there? I don't know.
Keep them guessing. Got to keep them guessing.
100%.
Barnes came on against Forest.
Yeah.
Didn't really do very much, but I think that might have been because we couldn't get the ball to him. Same with Isak faded into invisibility because we couldn't get the ball to him. Wilson came on and looked fit, did run hard, did battle, but then when he got one or two chances, I thought he was a little bit for Callum Wilson rather than for the team. Certainly that last 100%. There was a square ball that put Gordon 10 yards out with an open net to make it safe, but he didn't even get a shot away, I don't think.
Yeah, you could tell by Gordon's reaction he was hurt. He was really angry at Wilson for that. And he gets a shot away, but he literally just kicks it straight against the defender. And it's one of those where if you're in the corner flag and it goes anywhere, you still get a corner or a throw in. That's acceptable, just kicking it against the defender. But when you're on the edge of the box, you've got a fair distance for it to go out for a throw in. Corner, maybe less so. but you've got to be looking to play through Anthony Gordon to make it safe, because 5-3, there's no nerves there whatsoever, but 4-3, they definitely could have got back into it in the end, and given our performance, it wouldn't have surprised anyone. So Wilson, we'll put that down to sharpness. I think I mentioned it with Pope. Wilson's had virtually no minutes. A fit Callum Wilson, I don't think he does that, but I imagine he's a little bit desperate for minutes, game time, and to show what he can do.
Yeah, I bet that's true. That is absolutely true. So, we can't really guess the team because it's a bit up in the air about, firstly, the tactics he's going to employ, secondly, the personnel that he's got. So, we've talked where we think there might be changes.
100%.
How are we going to do? Do we get anything from it or not?
So, I said last night on the crossover podcast that I thought it would be 2-2. But I did admit that I was being a little bit optimistic and that maybe the heart was ruling over the head. And if I'm completely honest, I do see us losing, particularly because we're not playing great at the moment. I think Newcastle, when we were on that 11-game run of wins, unbeaten, I would have backed us to maybe even pick up a first win at Anfield since, I think it's 1994. But you look at it now and you think, I don't think that team's got it in them right now. But I'd love to be wrong.
Well, we were in a similar position when we went to play Arsenal at home.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that Arsenal had decided that, and they had just beaten Manchester City. The Arsenal fans had gone from writing off their chances when they lost that home semi-final to fully expecting to be able to turn around the 2-goal deficit when they turned up at St James's Park. And we were absolutely magnificent on that night.
We were.
Where the
right.
five-man midfield, five-man defence was deployed and made us into a really attacking force, which was a wonderful sight to behold. We're in a similar situation now, Michael. I'm hoping that I think we'll turn up. I think we do turn up and we battle and we're hard. We've got more players a bit fitter, back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
And Liverpool, in their last home game, struggled to get past Wolves. No, they looked scarily, frighteningly good against Manchester City. But then they were 2 up after half an hour and just left it for for another last hour without doing anything else. So I quite like your 2-2. I might go for us being able to work hard and pick up a draw. And to be honest, we should have picked up a draw 2 seasons ago when they scored their winner in the 7th minute of injury time.
Yeah, Fabio Carvalho. Still have nightmares.
When there was only 5 minutes put up on the referee's board. But yeah, so hey, I'm going to go for a draw. You're going to go for a loss, are you?
Yeah, I said 2-2 yesterday, so realistically I should stick with that. But I think being honest and not just being the new NUFC representative on a crossover, I do think they'll come out probably 3-1 winners. Unfortunately.
Well, we shall be tuned in tomorrow night, sitting on the edge of our seat for how long? I'm not sure. Hopefully, Liverpool won't score as quickly as either Nottingham Forest or Manchester City did. I'm going to pause there, Michael, and play this lovely Bioniq advert. And then I think we should have a look at the other games that are on this week. Because, as I say, I think a lot of our rivals are going to get beaten as well.
Sounds good.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Doesn't that sound a bit rushed through the middle? Like all the gaps were taken out. And then there was a huge gap, and then Ken comes back. I know he spoke before he came and finished it off. That's what happens. That's what happens when the adverts are recorded.
Yeah, need me.
I think you'd have read it so much better than that, Michael. I know you would have done.
Oh, thank you very much. I take passion and pride in the adverts.
Lovely. Right. it works quite nicely in that there are 4 matches tonight that we can talk about first, and then we'll do a break, and then we'll have a look at the other 5. Not the Newcastle one, we've done that. Brighton and Bournemouth. I look at that. I would love to watch that. I think I might be able to tonight. They're all on the telly tonight, aren't they?
Yes, I think so.
I can see either team winning, but I'm hoping that means it ends up a draw because they're both rivals for Champions League places, really.
Yeah, Bournemouth are one of those teams. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, how do you see it going?
I was going to say, Brighton are one of those teams that on their day can beat anybody. They did get absolutely battered off Nottingham Forest, but I don't think that shows how they are as a team. While Bournemouth, they've got a lot of injuries, and I think towards the end of the season, we probably are more likely to see, that fitness that, you would expect a Chelsea or an Arsenal to have because they play so many games that Bournemouth simply don't. I mean, they were really poor against Wolves, but they were excellent against Nottingham Forest. They were excellent against us. So they seem to turn up against bigger teams. They should have got something against Liverpool. So I could feasibly see Bournemouth coming away from Brighton with 3 points. But I do think that Brighton will manage to hold on for, as you mentioned, you'd love a draw. And I do think it'll be a score draw. And it could be 2-2. But I'll go 1-1. Because I don't want to repeat myself.
1-1, which will be the number of points they both get from that game, of course.
Absolutely.
I agree. I think it's a draw. But I could see either team winning it. Apparently, Brighton, when they got hammered at Forest, were trying something. I think I was told they played with 1 in midfield. And they were trying something very spectacularly. And it was when the manager, whose name I've forgotten, the young lad, set fire to his tactics sheet after the game in front of the players and showed they would never ever line up like that again.
Credit to Fabian Herzl if that has happened, because so many managers try something new and it just doesn't work. And I guess the same has to be said for Iraola. They went, I think it was their first 10 games without picking up a win. And he was I remember him being the bookies' favourite to be sacked because I wrote about it. And now they're saying he could be Real Madrid manager next season, which fantastic turnaround from him. And to be honest, Bournemouth could be in Champions League contention. If they get that, he deserves the biggest job in the world.
Excellent. I agree. I'm going to try and, while you're doing your Zencastr ad, get where we are with the points and everything, just to add the points we give them onto it to see how far we fall behind if we could lose to Liverpool. I think this one's going to help us out, though, in my view. Palace against Villa.
Yeah. Palace are in fantastic form. Jean-Philippe Mateta looks like he could end up going in the record books as one of Crystal Palace's best ever strikers. I mean, to be honest, when you main competitions the likes of Andy Johnson, that's probably not much of a surprise. But I think he's one of those players that he's big, he's strong, he's quick, and we're starting to see the more clinical side of him. So I think definitely Mateta is going to get on the score sheet against a pretty dodgy Aston Villa defence. But at the same time, Villa, with the additions of Asensio and Rashford looks a completely different player. I don't know what you think about him, but for me, he looks great in a Villa shirt. And
I think he looks a lot sharper, for sure. For sure, 100%. Looks a lot sharper. And I think Asensio, I mean, I know he scored 2. And he's not really in that team for his goal-scoring prowess.
No.
But Asensio looks a really good player. And already linking up with Morgan Rogers like they've been playing all season together.
Yeah, very annoying.
I think that's a great game. I do think Palace will edge it, which is good because Villa are going to hunt us down if they can. But if they get 0 points, that's one team we ain't going to fall behind by losing 2 against Liverpool. Wolves and Fulham are there as well, really. And they were just 4 points behind us.
Yeah, I think Fulham are one of those. I mean, I am going to double check just to make sure I'm not wrong. But yeah, their form hasn't been fantastic. They pick up wins against the likes of Newcastle, I think we're one of the teams that have played them and not really performed at our best. But that just comes down to how Marco Silva's got Fulham playing. They play a really fluid style. Muniz and Jimenez up front, not exactly clinical, but he's got them working. He's got them playing well. I've seen Adama Traore starting to actually execute brilliant crosses, which he was a pace merchant for the last 10 years. I didn't think he could actually pass a ball, but he looks amazing now. Iwobi, Arsenal and Everton, well, not an Everton flop. He was sold for 35 million, but Everton didn't really see the best of him. Arsenal didn't see the best of him. Now we're seeing it for Fulham. So he's really getting the best out of those kind of players. And I think they'll fall short. I don't think they'll get Europe. They're doing really well to be in with contention. And I think only Arsenal and Liverpool have lost less than Fulham this season. So it just goes to show. In fact, Brighton as well. I think Brighton are the masters of the draw. I think they've got 6, which coincides with what we said earlier. But yeah, I think Fulham against Wolves, I'd expect Fulham to pick up a win.
Would you?
Yeah.
I've seen, since I've watched Wolves lose 3-0 at Newcastle, but actually, they could have done a Fulham on us with a better run in front of goal. And they won at Bournemouth, didn't they? I know Bournemouth had a man sent off, but they won away at Bournemouth, which is Pressley on the weekend. I think Wolves might get something out of this game. And I picked up that Fulham are prone to a draw and less effective against the mid-table, lower-table team. I'm going to go for another draw on that one.
Yeah, it completely makes sense. I mean, Wolves are one of those teams where I think they play really well, but under Pereira, they seem to be just missing out on the result to match it at times. Fantastic in the last few games. The win against Villa is the one that stands out. But yeah, it could be it could be any scoreline, and I think that's what makes those kind of games special.
The last one tonight, Chelsea-Southampton. In 2 seconds, Michael, is that 3 points for Chelsea?
Yeah, 5-0 Chelsea.
Well, let me just register that I didn't think Southampton were as appalling as they have been when I was watching them. They got well beaten on the weekend, though, did they not? I can't remember. They lose at home 4-0 to somebody.
Yeah, they weren't great. I can't remember the game, but I feel like they lost 4-0 to Brighton. I feel like every single time I watch them, I can't wait for them to get relegated.
They're such nice lads on the Daily Southampton, though. Really are.
They are
good,
excellent
good lads. But Chelsea aren't in very good form either. They're down in the bottom half of the form table. They surely can't struggle to get past Southampton, though. I'll give them 3 points with a win. I don't think it'll be a 5-0 though. I think it'll be a 2-1, 3-1. I don't think it's just one-sided as you think. Anyway, Michael, I'm pausing there. Give us your Zencastr advert, Bonnie lad.
Oh, absolutely. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time delivering our delivery platform. Zencastr, it came out a clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
I'm laughing
because I messed it up.
Thank you. No, you didn't mess it up, did you?
I did. First line, I said it's delivered and then delivered again. But it's fine. It's just a brilliant delivery platform. And that's why I had to say it twice.
Well done. I am laughing because I'm desperately trying to get all of the points for these teams that I think that we're in competition with written down so I can finish the pod off with some sort of conclusion. First game, Brentford, who are just on the shirt tails of Fulham and Brighton, and therefore with a decent run, you think would be able to come chasing after us. They're 7 points behind us at the moment, so we've got to include them against one of the form teams of the Premier League. And I never thought I'd say that this season when Sean Dyche was grunting his way to another 0-0 draw against Everton. How do you think Brentford-Everton will go?
Yeah, it's a really awkward one because Brentford, it's not. It's a couple of months ago, we were saying they've got the best home form in the league. They were unbeaten. They were coming up against Nottingham Forest and I think Arsenal. And I said on the pod, that won't last. I'm pretty sure they got a good result in one of those games. I can't remember which one it was, probably Forest. But the home form hasn't been great since. And as you say, Everton, they're the form team under David Moyes. And you hate to see it. You really do, because this was the year you were looking at it and going, oh, Everton could finally go down. And then David Moyes has come in and he's been absolutely fantastic. It's a revelation. And I'm actually, it looks fantastic to see a David Moyes side above Manchester United after the way he was trapped there. So I like Moyes. I do like Moyes as a manager. I don't like Everton. So it evens itself out a little bit. But I do think Everton will come away with a victory from Brentford. Yeah, I think Beto's in fantastic form. Decore behind him looks like a completely new player. And I really like that Alcaraz as well that they've signed in from South America in the summer. After the deadline, which is a bit suspicious, but it's one of those where they look a completely transformed team. They've now got attacking options who were there all along, except from Alcaraz, but they look so much of a different team. And they're
like
really difficult to beat. Yeah.
Transformed. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed the draw against Liverpool. I'm pleased that they got that.
Yeah.
In fact, that was such a late equaliser. It was nearly at the start of the next game they were playing. But I like Brentford. Brentford had a good win on the weekend. That's a powerful, potent forward line with Wissa, Mbeumo, and Gada. I think they'll have too much for Everton. I think Brentford will win this, but I think it'll be a really good game. I think a 2-1, a 3-2, something like that.
They'll definitely be tight.
Excellent. But I've got Man United and Ipswich. Is that a relegation battle? Do we just have to pass over that and say, keep our fingers crossed that Ipswich manage to get there's some pressure on Ipswich to pick up some points with Wolves win and them losing on the weekend. They're 5 points adrift now. But they're playing Man United. And Man United are, what's the word, dreadful?
Yeah, I'd probably use that to sum up Man United at the moment. It sounds about right. I think it's annoying that Amarim has come in at this time of the season, because I think it's one of those where under Ten Hag, you had no expectations of them getting relegated. But because they've switched managers and gotten worse, you're looking at it and going, oh, Man United must be close to relegation. And then you look at the table and unfortunately that I think it's 10 points off. Despite not winning a game for what feels like forever. I know they've beat Leicester a few games back, but it feels like they're losing or drawing every single week, and they're still up there, unfortunately. So I think it's not a relegation 6-pointer unless Ipswich win. If Ipswich pick up 3 points, you've got to be a Man United fan turning around and going, we've got a problem here.
Yeah. Amarim knew that, didn't he? He knew it was the wrong time to come in. He wanted to wait until the summer, but they just wouldn't let him. They'd come now or else.
Yeah, I found it baffling that they let Ten Hag stay on, to be honest, because he won the FA Cup, obviously, prevented us getting into Europe. But Man United fans knew from the moment, from about 6 months before that cup final, that he should have been sacked. It wasn't a good fit for the team. They've spent 120 million or something in the summer. I think it's a lot more than that, actually. And then gone, all right, well, we're going to bring in this new manager who doesn't like any of the players we've signed. So it's brilliant. Dan Ashworth got lost his job as well, although he got a hefty payout, so he won't be crying. Isn't it just great to see Man United in those 15th position?
It is. However, there's a human story in there which is awful. Did you see the back of the Daily Mail today? There's 200 non-playing staff have lost their jobs.
I did, yeah.
The canteen now doesn't serve any free lunches, it just offers fruit. What's going on? This doesn't sound like the global force that we expect of Manchester United. It sounds a bit 100%. Like Salford trying to compete. Sorry, Salford. I'm sure Salford haven't sacked anybody. They've still got the tea lady. So what are you going on this? Do you think Ipswich can do it? I think they might,
I'd love to see it, but I do think it'll be an away win for Man United. I would love to see a Liam Delap hat-trick 3-1 Ipswich, but I do think it'll be one of those games where Man United will get over the line by Joshua Zirkzee kneeing it into the goal without knowing where the ball is or something like that. It'll be one of those.
It's that Old Trafford, so you can get the crowd on the Man United's back, because Ipswich are actually much more successful away from home than they are at Portman Road. Right, so we're going either way. It probably end up a draw if we've got one for each, but we'll see. Doesn't affect the top of the table in the slightest. Anyway, this one does. Forest in third, but having lost 3 of the last 4 games, against Arsenal in second, 6 points behind. Now, I'm hopeful that because Arsenal couldn't score in a brothel, that we have witnessed the first, with their home defeat to West Ham, we witnessed the first game in a sad and sorry decline as they fall completely from grace. And it'll be compounded tonight when Nottingham Forest just roll them over. Can you see that happening?
I wish. And to be honest, I kind of can, because I think Forest, if they're on the day, let's say it's the second half against Newcastle, they have a lot of potential to do well. And Arsenal, as you say, they can't score in a brothel. I think 4 players out is a big distraction for them, but I think the pressure's not on Arsenal anymore. I think after that loss to West Ham, they know the title's gone. It was a case of, before West Ham, we have to win every single game. Now it's a case of, well, we're 9 points, I think it is, ahead of the pack for Champions League. That's the aim for them. Champions League, how they do in that league this season is probably the main thing. Bukayo Saka comes back in March. Same with Martinelli, I believe. So I don't think we'll catch them up per se. It'll be a lot closer than I think many believe. But I do have to go with I want to go Forest win, so I'm going to stick with the Forest win. I could see it being a scoreless draw, but I think Forest 2-0 win.
That is both of us on a Forest win. Forest are only 6 points off Arsenal, by the way. Oh. And if they win, they'll only be 3 points. And if you think Arsenal haven't got any pressure on, if they've got Forest chasing them down 3 points behind, say Newcastle pick something up, or even if Newcastle don't, if Bournemouth win, Man City win, there's the pack closing on them. It would be fantastic if Arsenal didn't even qualify for the Champions League, wouldn't it?
Oof. I think it's one of those where it feels unheard of. It feels like it's not going to happen this season under Arteta, but they do look dreadful at the minute, and they can't score a goal. So,
and their last home game of the season is at home to that team that's already beaten them 3 times.
3.
So that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
It would indeed.
Okay, now I've got to include these guys because they're talking about still being on for qualifying for Europe, although they're starting from a long way back. Tottenham at home to Manchester City. Tottenham, 3 straight wins.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't thought of it that way. I'd thought of 3 wins in about 15 games or something, but yeah, they are actually turning the corner a little bit under Big Ange. However, it's still the Tottenham that we've seen for a little while. I can't remember who they've played. Was it Leicester, Brentford, and Ipswich? I think the last 3 they've played were. So it's maybe Man United. Well, actually, you're better off playing Man United than Leicester at this particular moment. So, they've won 3 in a row, but I think as soon as they come up against a half decent team, they'll crumble. But they have beaten Man City. I think it was 4-0, might have been 4-1 already this season, and they do tend to do well against City. 4-0 it was. So
City have one win against Tottenham at Tottenham since 2018.
Ooh. I'll still back them to make it too.
It's a bogey team. No, well, it depends which Man City turn up, don't they? If Man City turn up and play like they did against us, then they'll stroll it. They'll probably win 4-0 there as well. But if they are as candidates, we've seen them in the majority of the games since the start of December. I could see Tottenham taking them. I don't know what to say on this one. We want a Tottenham. We want a Tottenham win, certainly, because let's have a Tottenham win. Have a Tottenham win. I'll briefly mention West Ham and Leicester, which finishes things off. West Ham win.
Yeah, I think Graham Potter's already under a little bit of pressure, but I think they'll get a win that puts them above. Well, keeps them on par with Man United.
Yeah, West Ham to win that one, but not affecting the top at all. Now, if my math is correct, after these results that we've picked,
right,
Arsenal are going to lose, but they'll still be second in 53 points.
Yeah,
Forest will be third with 50 points.
Magnificent achievement.
I think that will put. What did we say we were going to get?
We've said a draw for us,
right? Okay.
If we're being cheeky.
Right. Okay. Well, if we got our draw, Chelsea's win against Southampton will give them 46 points.
Okay.
And they will therefore jump above us. But if we get a draw and move on to 45, we'll go above Manchester City. So we will hold on to our 5th place.
That'd be fantastic.
Then we'd have Manchester City probably there in 6th. Bournemouth would pick up a point and also be on 44 points.
Mm-hmm.
So they would still be 7th, I think, on the goal difference. We didn't give Villa anything. We only gave a point to Fulham, so they're on 40 points. Villa 42. Brighton would pick a point up to be 41. And I think that's all of them. Brentford, Everton. I gave Brentford a win to go on to 40. So that's the point I'm making. The whole point of this is we don't pick much up at Liverpool, but then neither did Bournemouth, neither did Manchester City. Forest and Arsenal could draw. It's just one match day out of the 38 match days that we have to get through. And there are still 10 or 12 of them. I can't even count up. We have got a fantastic April to look forward to where 4 of our matches are at home and there's another one away to Leicester. And it's that sort of month which will really decide our fate. Not this horrible 100%. Game at Liverpool. That was fun.
100%. It's interesting to see how things can go because as much as we can remain in our little Newcastle bubble, goldfish bowl, as Jermaine Genius would describe it, there's so much going on in the Premier League that influences us, and everyone says, just focus on your own team. But we did play well against Forest, and we won. Other teams around us aren't even picking up those 3 points at times. So realistically, it's not that bad right now. And I think if you said to a lot of people, we'd be in the final of the Cup, albeit against Liverpool, we'd still be in the FA Cup, and we'd be sat in 5th place on... Oh, we all got the same points as Manchester City? I think anyone would have took that at the start of the season. Anyone would have took that.
Well, excuse me. I think you're absolutely right. And we've got some very winnable home games coming up because we haven't played Man United yet. Oh, that was a final dig for Manchester United. But they deserve it, don't they? All that rubbish about Dan Ashworth and then back in 3 months after we've got there. Thank you very much indeed for that, Michael. I've just thought also we could have actually picked any results here because we're never going to have to report back on them. So we don't have to be accountable for anything on this. What do you think, listeners? Do you agree with ours? So you want to let me and Michael know if you think we're completely nuts. I suppose you'll wait until you've seen the actual scores before you know if we were or we weren't. Yep. But thank you very much indeed for taking part, Michael. I thought it was good fun. We shall be back tomorrow, probably with our preview, is it, for the Saturday game?
Yes, it will be, yeah.
Absolutely funky. We shall see you all soon.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.